Okay, so hello. Welcome to my second video. I've just recorded the first one about the best option for cutting towards the sideline, whether someone from the stack or whether the dump handler is best suited. I've just rewatched it. I thought, you know what, that's not too bad. A little bit long maybe, but it goes into quite a bit of depth, I suppose, and it really plays out the mentality excuse me, that I think we can get into for that play. So, my second video. So, I'm going to be going over how I like to attack a zone in this video, or a very small segment of attacking a zone, and a way that I think a lot of teams have a lot of success with it, and how I think a lot of teams could have success with it. So let's get into it. So as you can see here, similar to the last video, I've got the pitch marked out, I've got the end zone, the brick marks, and then I've got my red dots for the offensive players. So you're going to notice a sheer lack of defensive players here on this pitch. So we're going to add those in, and they're going to be set up in a kind of junk look. So if you're relatively new to Ultimate, or if you've only been playing a few weeks, or if you're just not too sure on zone defense yet, I'll also be kind of briefly going over what a zone is and how it would look. So first of all, with a zone, you're not marking a person, you're marking a space. Okay, so it's a really simple concept. So let me pop in the defensive players, and I'll very briefly go over their roles. So let's give somebody the disc. We're going to have the disc here. And then let's pop in our defensive players as lines again. So we're going to go here. And then, of course, we're doing a zone. So then we're going to have someone here and someone here. So you've got your mark who is putting the force on, and they're the one doing the stalling. And then in a junk look such as this, it's quite a popular zone, especially, I don't want to categorise, but especially when you watch American Ultimate. I think this is probably one of the most common zones that you'll see them pull out. You've then got these two players here that are essentially forcing the disc to go in a particular direction. So I might just actually put those in a slightly better position. So I'll put them all in a better position. How about that? So they're not going to be that close. They'll be about there maybe. And there. Okay, so in this zone, we are trying to force the disc in a particular direction, and with a junk, you want to create this, what's known as a cup. So we're forcing the disc to, well, in this scenario, towards the top of the screen, and the two points or two members of the cup that aren't putting the force on are going to step a little bit back so that they're not double teaming, because in most rules of Ultimate, I know there's a few leagues where double teaming is allowed, but in most rules you're not allowed to double team, so you've got to be stood a little bit further away. But they are stopping anything coming essentially here. So this whole side of the pitch is kind of marked out by these three players here. So now we're going to add in the next three players. So we're going to have a mid. That's a very big mid. You have a mid whose job is to protect the middle space. Then we're going to have a wing and a wing whose job is to protect these spaces. And then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, we're going to have a deep who, as you might have guessed, marks the deep space. So hopefully that gives you a quick brief understanding of what a zone should look like, and in this sense a junk zone is the name of it. So as you can see, when a zone is set up, space is being marked. So space around the handler, space in the middle of the pitch, space on the side of the pitch, and space in the deep. So when you're on offence against a zone, you don't want to stack up as you typically would, because making cuts is going to be really tricky if you've got people stood where you want to cut, where you've got defenders stood in the lane, is how we would describe it. So the cutting lanes already have people in. So as the red dots already indicate, you want to spread out when you're going up against a zone. Okay, so to some of you that isn't going to be amazing, huge news. To some of you that might not be so comfortable with zones or even know what they are, that's going to be a slightly different play style to how we typically get taught Ultimate. So now I'm going to break it down into this very small segment, okay, that I like to, I think is really effective against especially this kind of zone. And I think utilised properly, it can get through the zone quite quickly. And it focuses in on this fella here, on the handler, and this one, and this one. So another difference between, a difference between zone offence and match offence is you will typically, instead of having 2 handlers, you will have 3 handlers. So you'll bring somebody else back to really create a lot of horizontal options, because that's probably the best way to get through a zone, creating horizontal movement as well as forward movement. So let's get into that a little bit. Let's discuss that horizontal movement. So we've got this chap here with the disc. What options has he got in this offence? Where can he put the disc? So if he's really daring, he can try and get it through these gaps. He can try and get it through the defenders in the cup. Those are going to be really tight spaces. They're going to be within touching distance of each other, these defenders. So putting it through these gaps is going to be a really tricky throw, and it's going to be really precise. And you're throwing into a really kind of narrow space here, that one of these guys has to kind of cut into, get past the mid, get past the wings. So putting it into that space is an option. It's not a hard and fast rule that you shouldn't put it through the cup, but it's not going to be the highest percentage pass that you can make. Another option, what can we do? We can swing it all the way around. So we can break our mark and we can swing it around to this handler over here. Similar to a normal kind of offence against match, breaking the force is a really powerful move. So breaking this mark is a really powerful move because you're getting it onto the side of the pitch that they might not be ready for, and you're getting it onto the side of the pitch essentially that they don't want you to. And if you can pull that off instantly, you've kind of thrown them off a little bit. And then the last option really, another option, we could hammer it over the top. So we could hammer it, we could do a bladey flick, we could go for a really high throw and hope that it gets to somebody over the top of the cup and over the top of the other defenders. Once again, not necessarily the highest percentage throw, but it is an option. So the last option really that I would consider if you were attacking this zone is the open side throw. And because we've got the 3 handlers in this set, you're going to have a handler on that side of you, typically, unless you're on the sideline, in which case you obviously want to be looking to get the disc back into the middle. But in this scenario, you've got the disc in the middle of the pitch, you're going to have an open handler. So what might the defence do to try and stop this? They may bring one of the cup further round. So they may bring this player who's furthest round on the cup, they may rotate him a bit and bring him round a bit to kind of put you off throwing that pass across, in which case you have a bigger gap in the middle. So a lot of teams aren't going to encourage moving a member of the cup round, because remember, in a defensive look, we want to force the offense to throw it to a certain side, really. We're not trying to take away all the options, but we are trying to take away a lot of them. So typically that player isn't going to go all the way round. What else could they do? They could bring the wing on the closest side to where the open handler is. They could bring them further up the pitch in a very poachy kind of look. So they're not coming all the way up and marking them, because then we've got a big space over here without a marker. But then on the same token, they're not going to stay all the way down here, because then they're not actually putting any pressure. So they're going to come up the pitch maybe, play a bit poachy, and essentially say to the handler, if you throw to the open side here, I'm going to have a bid on it. So those are the two kind of ways that the defence may try and stop this open side throw in this zone. So what happens if we do get the disc there? So we've thrown the disc and it's now over here. What can we do to continue that? We could bring this player up. We could bring our wing up and get a nice yard gainer here, which works. It's a perfectly viable option, but we've got to consider we've got a defender there who's ready to take that option away. What else can we do if we've moved the disc to this handler? Well, we could do a very similar kind of thing. We could try and get a really quick throw somewhere down here into the middle. We could do a hammer, try and get it over the top to someone. But let's remember that as soon as that disc is passed onto that side, this entire cup is going to be moving as a unit, and they're going to be putting the force on there as well. So if you throw anything into this kind of space, you've got a very short window of opportunity to do that before the defending players are moving over and taking those options away. And they may even be able to get a bit of a block on there as you throw it. So, how do I like to play this? Not like that. So, now that the disc has moved over, what do I actually think is the best option here? So, as the blue players, as the defenders are moving over to put that force on, we want to move as the central handler. We want to cut as soon as we've thrown the disc. We want to cut up here, and we want to get that disc back straight away. You're only passing the disc 2, 3, 4, 5 yards. You're not passing it very far. Okay? You're not passing it very far at all. So just to explain it in case my lines have confused you a little bit, the black arrows are showing the path of the disc, and the red arrows are showing the path of the handlers, or the players. So let's update it a bit. So we've passed the disc to this handler, who has then passed it back to the same handler who has done a really hard cut and beaten the defenders there. Okay? What's the option? We're in a very similar situation. The disc hasn't moved very far from the original pass. So let's just break it down a little bit here. So these guys are gone, and get rid of these arrows. Get rid of the disc on there, that's no longer there. What is the play here? And let's update the defence really quickly. So they have now kind of the defence are kind of hanging around here essentially. They haven't had to move very far. This has been a very quick turn of events. So the disc has been passed over to the side, the cut, it's literally a few seconds apart, if that. How do we now move the disc in a really, really quick, kind of fluid way and continue this play? We then swing the disc. So you've done a really kind of a medium short pass to the side of the pitch. You've then done a really short pass back to the same handler. What are the defence expecting you to do? At this point, you've done a give and go move. You can even do that again. If this handler can get free and can kind of come around here, there's nothing stopping them from getting the disc back. You can do this 2, 3, 4 times. The handler's just doing really short passes to each other, moving the disc around in a very small space. As soon as you've kind of got the defence moving and you've told them we're going to be playing this really quickly, we're going to be playing this really sharp, short pass kind of game, you need to completely divert their expectations and take the swing option. So you've done a medium pass to the side, really short, sharp passes, a couple of times between the two handlers, and then you're looking for this big swing option, because the entire zone is looking this way. The entire zone is looking at this space that you've been kind of popping into between the handlers. These guys may even have moved over as defence, because that's what they're expecting. You take the swing, you go down this way, you pop it a few times, you swing back. So as I said kind of at the beginning of the video, the best way to beat a zone is with this horizontal movement, moving it forwards, and then more horizontal movement. So if you can work on this with your teams, lots of quick, short, sharp passes followed up by really nice, precise swings, moving the disc up in a kind of zigzag pattern, you're going to get through the zone with some ease until they kind of until they change it up and find a way to counter that. So I'm going to end it off there again. I know that I kind of build it up, and then end it, but that is kind of the mentality, that's the kind of thinking against one of these junk look zones. You want lots of short, sharp passes between the handlers, and then you want a nice big swing to get it onto the break side of the field, get some more short, sharp passes up, and then just swing it straight away. And that'll do you for a few points, and if you have to change things up, you might have to change things up, but that should keep you going for a little while. So that is how I like to work against a junk zone. So thank you very much for watching this one, and see you in the next one, I suppose. Bye-bye.